There's an old Hollywood saying, you can always make a bad movie out of a good script, but you can't make a good movie out of a bad script. Sure, I can point to a few examples of films that are so bad they're good, but that's catching lightning in a bottle, you know? And it never works if it's done intentionally.
Go ahead. Shark my deck.
Boo!
And of course, all art is subjective. What I think is a good film may be totally different than what you may personally think is a good film. And when it comes to film and television, I think we can all agree that nobody wants to spend their money or time on a bad project. This is the importance of a good script and the value of a good writer. After months of negotiations, at 12:01 a.m. on May 2nd this year, the roughly 11,500 writers of the Writers Guild of America officially went on strike after an agreement wasn't reached between them and the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers. In a nutshell, the writers were asking for pay to be more reflective of today's market. Job security with duration of employment clauses, better pensions and residuals that haven't kept up in 2023, the size of writers' rooms to make the workload more manageable, and some more very reasonable requests in an era when Hollywood is making more money than ever. And which should be the most absolutely easiest request to fulfill: no AI anywhere in the writing process. I feel like this has been said to death already and that everyone already knows the quality of what some of the best human artists can create versus what an AI generated content looks like. But for the business suits in the back who only look at the cold hard dollar, check out the Ninth Circuit ruling on human authorship for copywritten material in Naruto v. Slater. If it's not made by an actual person, there's no copyright. No copyright essentially means there's no money to be made. Even if I were to fully create a film just from a script that ChatGPT wrote me, everything in that script would be fair game for anyone else to recreate. That's how Creative Commons works. So what does this mean for us fans of television and movies? Well, it's hard to say right now. Many shows have been put on hold, but not all. Talk shows that require writers to constantly push out new work have gone off the air immediately, since, no one's there to write the opening monologue. Most films and scripted television now are probably just going to wait it out, either because they're still writing it, or because they don't have any writers on set during the production to handle, all the last minute rewrites. And just like what we saw in the 2007 writer's strike, there's always that push for more unscripted reality TV shows that dominate the airwaves.
They're perfect for reality TV.
It's probably no noticeable change there, actually. But we're probably going to see more films and television from outside the US market, just made without the jurisdiction of the US trade unions. But the one exception is the biggest production juggernaut in today's landscape: Disney. They make the most viewed shows, the most talked about among any group of friends or coworkers, and right now, they're on the mountaintop. And the writer's strike came when Disney is at its busiest time in history, despite the ongoing strike. And it's an alarming number of productions. Depending on how things shape out, the writer's strike could easily make or break the MCU. So yeah, let's get into it. First things first, any show that's currently in post-production is probably going to be unchanged. This also affects any films currently in pre-production or development. Anything from Phase 6 is just going to be held on to until the end of the writer's strike. This will leave us with the rest of Phase 5. It's safe to say that the strike probably won't affect Secret Invasion and Loki, since those are set to be released very soon, and the Marvels, Ironheart, and Echo, since they've wrapped production last year. Which leaves us this little window right here. Filming has already begun on Captain America 4, Agatha Coven of Chaos, Daredevil Born Again, and Wonder Man, and along with Thunderbolts, Blade, and Deadpool 3 set to begin very soon. And unfortunately, things aren't looking too good because they're just going to push through production even during the strike. From what I can gather at the time of recording, the only Marvel projects shut down by the strike are Blade and Daredevil. Blade has already been through a turbulent pre-production with clashing visions between creatives, full script rewrites, and multiple directors. They said that they're probably just going to wait for principal photography to begin until after the strike has ended. As for Daredevil Born Again, the picketers halted the production outside the filming location in New York City, and the Teamsters Local 817, IATSE Local 829, and 52 members refused to cross the picket line, causing the production to be suspended. As for the rest of the projects, well, I think now would be a good time to just put a pin in Marvel and talk about the cautionary tale that is NBC's Heroes. In Season 1, people around the world began to develop superpowers after a total eclipse. One of the main characters is a drug-addicted comic book artist, and he sees the future where New York would be blown up by an exploding man, and it's up to the rest of the main characters to band together to stop it. There's also a cannibal serial killer who's on the loose and who's gained his power to steal other people's powers if he eats their brains. And if he gets the cheerleaders' powers to heal, it's over. There was plenty of mystery surrounding who this mysterious The Company was, what this half helix symbol meant, and how the people got their powers, and so on. It was lavish with praise and award nominations for its first season, even nabbing a Golden Globe nomination for Best Television Drama and Best Supporting Actor for Masaoka, who plays the teleporting and time-traveling hero Nakamura in the show. I can't properly put into words how much of a smash hit this show was at the time. The marketing was all over the place, and the anticipation for the second season started out so strong. They decided to turn season 2 into 3 different volumes, consisting of 24 episodes, hoping to bring in all the new storylines and self-contained plotlines within. And where they first shot themselves in the foot is that they began production in late June 2007 for its September release. It's not entirely unheard of practice for television, even to this day, but it would have consequences soon. The writer's room was already on edge by the time the 2000 writer's strike was on the horizon, and it was all but inevitable. Everything got crunched, plot points were quickly dropped, and there was a lot of meandering, and characters just seemed lost or utterly forgotten about. A whole bunch of time-traveling nonsense, the cannibal serial killer is now the good guy, I guess, and a newly introduced horrific virus is just taken care of. The strike only lasted 100 days, and Season 3 of Heroes came and went to little fanfare. Then Season 4 dropped, and it just ended. But here's the thing most people don't talk about when it comes to Heroes. They'd actually already finished production by the time the writer's strike happened. The strike happened on November 10th between episodes 7 and 8, with 9, 10, and 11 supposedly being in the can by the time the strike officially began. What doomed Heroes was the fear of the strike affecting the episodes, and those ones would later air just as the strike would happen. The 2007 writer's strike was industry-wide, but it wasn't all bad. There were actually 2 scripted shows that came out of the other end of the strike much better and launched television into a new golden age: Breaking Bad and Mad Men. Breaking Bad was in the middle of filming its first season when the writer's strike happened. They'd only filmed 7 of the anticipated 9 episodes, and they just rolled with the punches and released what they had, and hoped to pick up whatever they were going to do next season. So the story goes, Vince Gilligan said that the original idea for the season finale was for Walt to immediately become Heisenberg, and he'd kill off Jesse in the finale as the final gut punch. As it turns out, Jesse was a fan favorite who carried on the franchise, and letting the greatest character arc in television history play out over 5 seasons instead was the best idea. As for AMC's other success, Mad Men, the show that won the Golden Globe instead of Heroes, well, they went down a different route. Lionsgate decided to enter into their own agreement with the WGA and agreed to all the terms that they were asking for at the time. Work could resume like nothing had happened, and that season would win this series its 2nd Golden Globe for television series drama. I say all of this because at the same time that deal was made between Lionsgate and the WGA, they also made another agreement with a tiny little company with big dreams, Marvel Studios. Granted, it was the pre-Disney Marvel Studios, but it was that deal that allowed them to begin work on Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and the Avengers. As the most profitable entertainment company on Earth, Disney could easily forge their own deal with the WGA to continue production on their shows and films. Things can go back to normal, and Disney would gain a massive PR win. But honestly, I wouldn't hold my breath on that, but hey, it led to the success of the MCU the first time around. And look, at the end of the day, corporations are corporations. I could hope that they would do the right thing and work with the writers to create the dream that we all told ourselves when we came out to Hollywood. But, could this push to get things done cause the MCU to become the new Hero Season 2? Well, not exactly. Like I said, there's plenty more mistakes that Marvel themselves typically don't make that Heroes did. And unlike most, Marvel takes their time with their projects and film everything way in advance. They could easily shift the release windows of all their projects and space out the premieres, and they could just pick up everything else when the strike ends. Disney Plus isn't really marketed for reality TV, but I could see them relying more on National Geographic content to carry things out for a bit as the big once-a-month release to carry subscription numbers. As it stands right now, per The Hollywood Reporter, it looks like Disney is going to push through the strike and carry on production with hopes of getting things done in the reshoot time slot. But that still takes up all that time that productions usually need for reshoots, and oh boy, this could be a huge mistake. In case you don't know, reshoots aren't just big spectacles where they change the ending in the last minute because test audiences or whatever. They're when your editor says, oh crap, we forgot this shot, or this particular thing doesn't really work with the film as a whole, let's tweak it just slightly. And in times like those, you guessed it, the writer must be involved. And even with the post-production process, writers are still working with the editors to help find out better ways to cut around dialogue to help make the scenes flow better. But even in just production, without a writer on set to help coordinate with the rest of the crew, to help make changes on the fly, and a whole bunch of other tasks, a whole entire gear is just taken out of the machine. And that's not even getting into what this does to morale on set, or how union solidarity with the Teamsters and IATSE members mean that they're also not going to cross the picket line. And I haven't even gotten to the fact that the Screen Actors Guild and the Directors Guild are also set to renegotiate their contracts at the end of June and could just easily join the writers, bringing all of the unionized members of Hollywood to a halt. But back to Marvel. Marvel fatigue is still a real thing. Phase 4 is already on uneven footing because of the pandemic, and things have just been very disjointed, and the overall story just hasn't had that focus that other phases have had. And just looking at the rest of the Phase 5 lineup, they're just all over the place tonally. Some movies are in space, some are on Earth, some have magic, some are ground level, and you have to toss in the rated R vampire film in there somehow, and there's no obvious way that we can make all of these connect. I think this is the golden opportunity to kind of just take a step back and pace things out a bit more. Spacing things out could help revitalize the audience for the next big project. And if the next few years of Marvel content doesn't have any major must-see projects, and the ones that are released are just clunky, poorly written messes, well, you know.
And the problem is the amusement park films. The problem is that, which is something that's been pointed out for the past number of years now. But now I think, in effect, they've got real cinema on the run, so to speak.
Will Marvel take the Mad Men route and negotiate with the writers? Will they take the Breaking Bad route and wait things out? Or will they take the Heroes route and fumble the ball so hard during the strike that everyone forgets how fantastic it used to be? Only time will tell. And just to clarify where I stand on all of this, writing is the most fundamental part of the creative process, and it has captivated the minds of generations. And paying the writers a living wage with reasonable working accommodations, with job security, knowing that they'll be able to pay their ever-increasing bills in an era when streaming and television has made the industry more money than ever imaginable, that should not be a controversial hot take. And I love the MCU. I love how my hobby of reading comic books has been taken out of the nerdy basements and become one of the greatest creative endeavors of our time. There are plenty of other productions that are still going on throughout this strike, and they too are going to see a drastic dip in quality. I just don't want that for the franchises that I admire the most. But what do you guys think? I would love to read your comments down below. I want to be optimistic at the end of the day, and I really hope that Marvel would do the best for their brand and side with the writers. And if you liked today's video, hit that like button and subscribe for more weekly content on comic books and nerd stuff. I've been Eric, and you've been awesome.